Pat, you got to start the live stream before you start the video, remember.
Welcome to New Tracks Modeling.
What?
Welcome to New Tracks Modeling. New Tracks provides unique mentoring opportunities to enhance your modeling skills by connecting with talented modelers and manufacturers from around the globe who generously share their knowledge and artistic expertise. Build your confidence, refine modeling techniques, and share your projects with a supportive community of fellow modelers, all while enjoying the world's most rewarding hobby. Join us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern on Zoom and YouTube for our free live program. Missed a program? No problem. Individual show segments are uploaded to YouTube for convenient on-demand viewing. Be sure to connect with the New Tracks community by joining the New Tracks Facebook page where you can interact with other modelers and see what they are modeling. Visit our website at www.newtracksmodeling.com, where you'll find information about upcoming events and the latest issue of our monthly newsletter, Observations. And now, here is the host of New Tracks Modeling, Tom Farrell.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to New Tracks Modeling, our live Zoom and YouTube show that airs every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. We're pleased to have you this evening. Jim Kello founded New Tracks Modeling with a powerful mission to create a supportive, educational community where experienced mentors help modelers of all levels grow and succeed in their modeling skills within the hobby. New Tracks media presence includes the live show you're watching now, our active Facebook page, our dedicated website, and the Observations newsletter, which currently reaches over 8,000 subscribers. We're also proud of our New Tracks Modeling Scholarship, which you'll hear about more shortly. And a little note on our newsletter, it will be switching to an online magazine this June, and I'll plug that a little later, but we'll need contributions from our viewers on articles. Getting back to New Tracks, everything we do is completely free for our participants, and our entire team operates on a volunteer basis, dedicated to serving the model railroading community. Before we begin tonight's program, let's take a moment to hear from our sponsor, Brennan's Model Railroading.
Tonight's New Tracks Modeling Meetup is sponsored by Brennan's Model Railroading. For over 25 years, Brennan's Model Railroading has been offering unique products focused on the O-scale market. Their flagship product, Brennan's Better Ballast, was an instant hit and continues to be the industry leader. The prototypical size and natural color blend of real crushed granite make it the choice for discerning modelers. Since then, Brennan's has developed a complementary line of natural ground cover materials. Brennan's also has craftsman kits that anyone can build. The complete photographically illustrated instructions assume you've never done this before, and explain in step-by-step detail how to create an outstanding model. The Frank Ellison Tribute series of kits are amazing additions to any layout. These kits take Frank Ellison's scratch-built iconic structures to a new level using modern methods and materials with Dennis Brennan's additional details and amazing instructions. See the complete line of products on the Brennan's Model Railroading website. Use the QR code to visit.
I encourage our viewers and participants to support our sponsors. Brennan's Model Railroading sponsors the show, and this evening, Frenchman River Model Works is sponsoring one of the segments. Please take a look at their websites, see something you like. We encourage you to support them. Now, let's look at the program for this evening's show. This evening, we have a new presenter, Neal Multz from East Coast Circuits. We're going to do a little interview, and he's going to show us some of his products, which are very interesting. He'll have some new product releases, he'll have existing products, and at the very end of the product showcase, we'll have a little discussion, so you'll have an opportunity to ask him questions about the products. Returning to the program is our longtime contributor, Martin Brechbiel. He's the editor of our New Tracks Observations newsletter and upcoming New Tracks Modeler magazine. He'll be doing a scratch build, the offices of Deckard and Batty. And then our very own Phil Edholm, the producer of the show. He's going to do part 3 of 4 of the scratch build, the Agnew station. And then I will be doing the conclusion of the Frenchman River Model Works. This will be the fuel tank, oil tank for the scene I'm doing on the Eberwein mine facility. The last 2 weeks, I featured the Thomas York engine house. This is the final component of that scene. So, before we feature Neal, I'd like to run our scholarship video.
Are you a model railroader going to college in academic year 2025-26? If you are pursuing a STEAM degree, apply for the New Tracks Modeling Mentoring Scholarship. For the 2025-26 academic year, 3 $2,000 scholarships will be available. You can apply online at the QR code shown or on the New Tracks Modeling website. Model railroaders can support the New Tracks Modeling Mentoring Scholarship, the only national scholarships for model railroaders from a nonprofit organization. Donate online on Zephy. All donations are tax deductible.
Before we begin tonight's show, just one word on the scholarship, which was very important to our founder, Jim Kello, and it's important to me, and it's important to everybody that's part of the show. If we don't have the youth participation in model railroading, of course, the hobby will go away. So one of the things that we do here at New Tracks is we run this scholarship program. Last year, we gave out 3 $2,000 scholarships to STEAM students. And we are in the process right now of evaluating candidates for 3 new scholarships this year at $2,000 apiece. Those donations, $6,000 last year, $6,000 this year, are made possible by our audience, our Zoom audience, and our YouTube audience. It doesn't matter if it's $20 or $100. The point is, if you could make a contribution, it would help. There's strength in numbers here, and it's for a good cause, and it's a tax deduction. You can find out more information about our scholarship program on our website and find information there on how to make your donation, or go back to YouTube. These segments are post the show, and you can scan in and make your contribution through YouTube. So now I'd like to begin tonight's program with a new presenter, Neal Multz from East Coast Circuits. He's the business manager for that company. And let's spot him. Neal?
Thanks, Tom, for having me here on the show. Greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for joining us this evening. And if we could have him spotted, it'd be wonderful. There he is.
There we go.
Well, I want to thank you for joining us this evening. And we spoke way back in February, March when I twisted your arm to do this.
That's okay.
I was persistent. So we're before we get into your product offering, why don't you tell us a little about yourself? You presently live in New Jersey. How'd you get into the hobby?
I've been in the hobby since 1972. I worked in a hobby shop. I don't know, some of you people may remember Polk's Hobbies from New York.
Oh yeah.
And eventually they shut down the business, and Lewis Polk developed Aristocrat trains. And I knew Lewis for many years, and I've been in the hobby ever since. I took a little hiatus when I moved to Queens and didn't have room for a layout. Then moving to New Jersey in 1995, that started started me back into building a layout. I guess you can call it an armchair modeler when you have you buying things and storing them for that one day when you can hopefully have a layout. And so right now, real quick behind me is the third iteration of my layout. Put it in a 20 foot by 20 foot room.
It's HO scale?
HO scale, yes.
Well, that will lead us to another segment in the future on your railroad itself. What do you model a specific period and time?
It's funny because I'll do modern for the most part, and when I have my operating sessions here with the guys, I don't get into switch lists or car cards. Kind of have a little hybrid where everybody gets assigned a job, and then I do something very unique called virtual ops. And then I basically switch out just about all the freight cars on the railroad to the Penn Central era. And I have a friend of mine in outside of Atlanta, Georgia, another one in Minneapolis. And all three of us have the exact same car numbers. So the outbound car would leave my railroad and either go down to my friend's layout in Georgia or go up to Minneapolis, and vice versa. They'll send me cars. We do that about once a month.
That is really interesting, and I think it's unique.
Yeah, I mean, there are some people that do virtual where they'll have like a Zoom and everything, and they'll be able to control the trains remotely. This kind of works out nice because I can basically stage everything ahead of time, make all the moves, and then we put it on our blogs, and then we launch them, like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, depending on how many parts are on the outbound. Then the following week we do the inbound on each layout. So
is your layout analog or digital?
I run DCC NCE.
Oh, great. And what part of the hobby do you enjoy best? Is there any one area that you really like to do over the others?
Yeah, I kind of like doing some of the electrical, and I put signals on my railroad, and my signals are all manual. I'll use rotary switches to control all the mainline signals. Some of the signals in the yards or the sidings are controlled, by the switches. One thing I'm not good at, and I freely admit it, is doing scenery. I'm not good at ballasting. I've tried my hand on it, not very successful. So basically, I went and kind of painted the cork roadbed, gray, certain type colors of gray for the main line. My yards, have a darker color. Some of the industries have another color, but it all works. And when the guys come here, it's more about running trains. They don't care too much about my scenery. A lot of my industries are Scratchbuild. I know if you can look over my left shoulder here, that's a Tropicana facility. It's all built from individual parts from a company that's no longer around, Great West Models. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of it, but so I decided to make my version. In New Jersey, outside of Jersey City, is a Tropicana plant. And I kind of discovered it back in, I would guess, the early 90s when I went to pick someone up and I had to pull off the side of the road, and CSX was running juice trains up from Bradenton, Florida to Kearney, New Jersey, 5 days a week. And I saw all the Tropicana reefers, and I say, okay, I want to model that. And so that's what I did. And I'll switch them out too. I have some of the early freight cars that Intermountain did. red caboose, and a lot of these are the some of the old BLMA and Atlas 64-foot Trinity reefers.
Well, I'll tell you that New Jersey area, you know, I shared with you that right out of Penn State, I moved to New Jersey and I called on customers all over northern New Jersey from North Brunswick all the way up to New York and Kearney and Clifton and Passaic. And this was a heavy, heavy industrial area in, you know, during World War II and all the way up into the 70s and 80s. And when I was there in the early 80s, there was so much industry and so much railroading that you could really pick, you know, if you wanted to model some very interesting brick buildings, you're
Oh
in,
yeah,
assuming they're still there. There,
a lot of them are. Yes.
yeah. And there's all types of bridges. You know, I remember driving from the, I don't know if it was the Garden State Parkway or 95. There's a Basque lift bridge there in Newark. Is that still there? Old rusty.
Uh, yes, there is. It's still there, and that runs over to Oak Island. You know, they'll bring. I usually see some intermodal trains on there
Yeah.
on occasion.
This is a railroad. I mean, there's so much railroading going on in that part of the country. You know, it's
Yeah, I
packed.
kind of slow down when I'm on the New Jersey Turnpike to look at the yard right by the water there. To you know,
Yeah.
because they've got some Conrail shared assets in there, and there's a lot of Norfolk Southern and CSX in there.
Hmm.
Oh.
If I'm ever in New Jersey, I'll ballast some of your stuff there. I'll show you how to do that quickly.
You've got a deal.
All right. Well, why don't we switch to your products now? We're going to do a little overview of new products, existing products. There's a website that everybody can view, but let's start with that. Phil, if you could. So it's all on you, Neal. Tell us about who exactly is East Coast Circuits, and you're the business manager. Tell us, start from there.
Okay. So East Coast Circuits was started in 2014 by a young man named Sammy Bentoncourt out of Rhode Island. I met him through another forum that used to be around. Trainlife.com ran a forum. And one year we decided, okay, you know, a bunch of us are going to go meet up at the Amherst Model Railroad show. And I went over, you know, to see him and everything. And he was a young guy. And normally, not that I'm against young modelers, but, you know, sometimes you get the kids and everything. And we start talking and he says, hey, I have an idea. And he shows me this one circuit that he has in his hand. And he says, you know, he wants to start this business and everything. And I'm listening to him talk. And I said, let me help you. I says, I'm in sales, been all, you know, pretty much all my life. I says, let me help you get the business off the ground. And so we did our first train show up in where was it, Marlborough, Massachusetts in December 2014. And I don't know if you guys know John Sacadati from the Amherst Model Railway show. He comes over and he sees what we do. He says, I want you at the show. And we couldn't be there. So I said, not enough time to make product. Long story short, fast forward a year later, and we took a table at Springfield, and the business has just grown and grown. And it's been 10 years that we've been together doing this, going from one circuit and one vehicle to an entire line of vehicles, signals, 3D animations, circuits, 3D resin printed signals, LEDs, and a whole lot more. So what you're looking at here is just some of the models that we've worked on. Those are the PCX 87 models, and we put about 34 to 36 lights in them, including spotlights that you can turn on and off in the side scene lights. If you're making a fire scene on your railroad, you know. So and people like the animation, and that's what catches everybody's eye.
And these are HO scale, correct?
Everything we do, yes, thank you. Everything we do is HO scale, from vehicles, and you'll see more as we progress through the next set of slides. Those the USPS mail trucks. That's the 1980s version, and the main difference between that one and the new version that you see running on your streets now are the backlights where they're fading in and out on the 80s version, and the new version has strobes. Coming down the road, you see the UPS delivery trucks, and those have a lot of lights in them as well. They come in two versions. The one that you see on your screen there, that's the new version. Which is one you currently see, running down your streets and everything. And those are very nice, and like I said, I can keep repeating myself. People like the animation, they like the visual sites, and it draws people, to their layouts. Many of the people, they'll create a scene. So for instance, a guy will do a fire station and he'll have 3 or 4 fire trucks in there. Or they'll do the UPS trucks. I know Walters came out with a UPS building, so they would put a bunch of those UPS vehicles on their layout. Same thing, people building, a town or whatever, they have a street, and they want to have, more vehicles, again, more animation. So the next slide that I think you have there, that's our other part of our business, our circuits. We do a number of different circuits. That's our traffic light circuit, and that'll handle up to 16 LEDs. So, if you have an intersection, whatever, you can control it, and it times out. You can adjust the time, so every few seconds it'll go from green to yellow and red, and then the other direction will, if it's red on one side, it's green on the other, and it just keeps, timing out and repeating itself. And again, it catches the consumer's eye, or the person who sees a model railroad layout who's not a model railroader. That's what attracts it to them. I think the next slide, you can just keep going. That one, the preemption circuit, you can use with a grade crossing circuit, which we're bringing back probably in about another 30 days. So if you have a railroad crossing and you have, let's say, 1 or 2 tracks, you would have a crossing signal circuit, and in conjunction with this traffic light preemption circuit. So what that does is when the train approaches the track, this traffic lights, doesn't matter if one side is red or if one side's green, they all go to red because the train is coming and no one's going to go across the train tracks. And then once it clears, then it'll go back to an original cycle.
That's very clever.
Yeah, it is. And these things have been developing, over the years. I think the next slide that you have up there is the random lighting circuit. So that's a circuit that you would put into like a building or a house, and it simulates you going in and out of a room, like a bedroom or a kitchen, whatever, in a house or in a big industrial building or commercial building where the lights go on and off, and that'll handle up to 6 LEDs. One thing that you'll notice on our circuits that they'll run on 9 to 12 volt AC or DC. And I'm going to go back a little bit to the vehicles. All of our vehicles run on 9 to 12 volt DC, which is very important. We tell people that you cannot use the power from a train power supply, because despite it saying fixed DC on the back, like an NMRA power pack, which are very good, sometimes they put out more than 12 volts. They can put anywhere from 14 to 16 volts, and basically you'll fry the circuit. So we give that strict warning, and we tell people, you can buy a power supply online from Amazon or eBay or even from us, and we sell a 9 volt 1 amp power supply, and you can power up to 6 or 8 vehicles, or you can power up a number of our circuits. Next slide, please, if you don't mind. Thank you. So that's the crossing signal circuit, and that'll work whether it's the Walthers or the Tomar or they're not around, but I'm sure people have an NJ International. This circuit will work 2 tracks bi-directional, and it comes with 8 sensors. You've got your approach sensors, and then you've got your island sensors. And as the train's going, let's say from west to east, it'll hit the first circuit. The lights will start flashing. You'll hit your island where your road is, and it'll hit the second sensor. When the last car clears the third sensor, then it'll shut off and the lights will go dark. Let's see what we have next. There
Oh,
we go.
you missed the burning. Go back 2
Okay,
slides.
you got the okay, yeah. Oh, you went so fast. Okay, I figured.
There you go.
So the burning fire circuit is used to simulate a house on fire. You could put like a yellow or orange or a red and orange LED in a building, and it'll rapidly flash and it'll simulate a house on fire. So I know, I think Walters or a couple people made like a house that was like under construction or whatever. So you take this circuit, take some LEDs, and you can find some of those small smoke generators, and you put it inside the house and put a few fire trucks around it and everything, and you've got a great little scene. And again, it attracts people. They like to see that animation. I know I'm repeating myself, but that's what we do. We want people to have a lot of animation on their layouts.
So tell me, go back to that one a moment, if you don't mind. The fire one. Yep. Fire. Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Because I'm going to feature a burning building on my layout, and just selfishly tell me a little bit more about this. How many LEDs will it drive?
That will drive 6 LEDs.
And will they all blink in unison, or will it be random, or how do
No,
we?
it'll be random. It'll be a flickering. I mean, if you look at a
Oh,
real fire, you don't see the
yeah.
same color all the time. You know,
Okay.
you're gonna see a little bit of a mix of a little bit of everything.
So you got an
So
order tonight.
what I'll do, Tom, I think I have a video somewhere. I don't know, it may even be on the site, but if not, I'll find it and I'll send it to you.
Thank you. Okay. Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. No problem. So last year we started getting into some 3D printing, and we came up with the light towers. And again, they work on 9 to 12 volt DC. I don't know if I could point it out if they'll see it, but on the mast, we have 16 LEDs on there, and the mast is movable, rotatable. It comes with side outriggers. You don't have to put them on there. It depends what your scene is like. We also offer it in a green as well, like a rental color green, for lack of a better term, color, because sometimes the colors, now you look at it and some people say, well, the one on the right is a red and the one on the left is an orange, but it's yellow and orange, and they're very popular, and they're very reasonable. And it's one thing that everybody notices about our products. All of our prices are reasonable and affordable. It gets very expensive out there, especially when you want to buy accessories to add to your layout. Yes, people are going to spend $200-300, if not more, on engines, and well, we all see the prices of freight cars. So we try to do everything as affordable as possible. There we go. So now we also rolled out traffic barrels. So what you see there on that picture there, those are our non-lighted traffic barrels. They're all 3D printed. And as a side note, all of our 3D printed items are made in the USA. We do all of this up in Rhode Island at our shop there, to the painting, the details, adding the decals, the white decal stripes around it. And it also comes with, we do a lighted version, and that comes with 6 lighted LEDs, and they'll flash in random. So if you have a construction scene on your railroad, on the layout, you can, set it up with, a construction truck, have some of these LEDs flashing on the barrels, have the light towers, and you create a whole new scene. This is very popular. From there, we went to signals. We got a lot of calls for signals. At one time, we were making some of the Pennsylvania Railroad signals that you see here for NJ International. And then they shut down. Jack, who I have known for 55 years, He retired from the business, and we owned the product. So we said, oh, let's do it on our own. And we rolled these out in the summer of 2023. It's been very successful. A lot of the clubs like it. We showed it at the National Train Show in Grapevine, Texas, and people from the Pennsylvania Railroad Historical Society were at the show, and they loved it. And they were, we hadn't even produced any yet. We had just some samples, and people, were ordering them, and they like them, and we do it as realistic as possible. Down the road, we're coming out with the D-head signals as well. Again, all of this is in HO scale. And they'll run on 9 to 12 volt DC. Everything is installed. The way you see it here is the way you get it. We also include some resistors so that you can hook it up to your power supply. You don't have to worry about adding resistors or anything. It's all done with magnet wire, so you can just add some additional wire to it if there's not enough on the product, just like anything else where you have to extend wire. Comes with we use 34 gauge wire, so you can also add more wire, let's say a 26, 28, or even a 30 gauge wire, and have the controls somewhere else. I have them on my layout, and my controls are anywhere from 10 to 20 feet away when I control my signals.
Neal, we have a question from our YouTube fellow named Mike Turner. He wants to know if these are available as a color position lights, red, yellow, green, etc.
Like the B&O signals, not at the present time. We're looking into doing them that way. If he wants, he can shoot us an email, and then I'll catch it. And once if we know when we're going to be able to do it, I'll reply to him. Thank you.
Thank you for answering that question.
So here was another neat idea we came up with. The figures are made by Walters and Prizer. The one on the left is a Prizer figure. And what we did is we took these figures and we put LEDs on them. And we have them in two versions. The street photographer basically has got the LED, and we give you a little small push button. So let's say you have people that come over to your layout, and especially non-model railroaders or kids, and they're looking around, and you can tell them, smile at the camera, and you press the button and it flashes. People get a kick out of that. Then we have the rail fan photographer, and what we include with that is we give you a sensor to put between the ties. So when the train goes over the sensor, the photographer flashes just as it would if you were, trackside taking pictures. And these are very, very popular. And also, again, they're very reasonably priced. The rail fan photographers go for $25. It's a very neat item, very reasonably priced, and just adds more animation and features to your railroad.
Have you considered doing these in O scale?
Well, number one, we really don't do anything in O scale. We used to with vehicles, but the selection isn't there. We've been asked about if we could do photographers in O scale. We haven't seen any, at least, not right now. Unless you know of, someone, or unless you have, one, then I wouldn't mind. I
wouldn't be surprised if a company called Artista, they make cast metal figures that are beautiful, So
here's the thing with metal, okay, because of the wiring and stuff that we do, metal, whether it's a vehicle or whatever, is very tough, almost impossible to do. And if there's got to be drilling in it,
Here's another idea then. There's a lot of people in O scale that print 3D printed figures in resin. In fact, some people at the shows, they scan themselves and get a printout of themselves.
Oh, yeah. Bernard does that for mini prints.
Yeah. So, well, I'm just wondering whether our audience includes, obviously, N would be out of the question, but HO, S, and O scale. I know they're not as popular as HO, but this might be a little niche product that might have some movement for you, you know?
You know, we'll keep that in mind. You know, we do get asked a lot, you know, if we have any O scale products, more N scale products. And the problem with that is there's just not a lot of vehicles out there. We used to be able to get our hands on some of the Athearn N scale fire trucks, but they haven't made them in over a decade, if not longer, you know, and the supply has dried up. So we concentrated now on HO scale. We've done O scale vehicles in the past from a green light and first response because they have plastic lenses. You know, and the same thing applies to our HO scale vehicles. We can do anything, you know, pretty much within reason from Walters, Burkina, Weeking, Bush. People come to us with police cars from Model Power, and unfortunately, Model Power vehicles all have metal headlights and taillights, and you know, to do something like that, you got to go through so many drill bits, and it gets very expensive.
Yeah.
And then on top, there's the cars are held together with rivets, so we really can't seal the vehicle up. So, you know, it's frustrating because if we were able to do it, believe me, we get calls for police cars all the time.
Yep.
All right, what else we have here?
Next
Have
slide.
any other? Go ahead. So that's our latest new item that we're coming out with. We've taken the Walters chassis. That's a 53-foot chassis that you see there. And we've added lights to the sides, to the rear, and on the front end of the container. There you go. That's the rear. We're doing that in 53-footers. We're doing it in 40-footers. And we're doing them on 20-foot chassis with the containers. And we give you about 28 to 32 inches worth of, you know, wire, and it usually comes down below where the rear trucks are, and we put the circuit inside the container, and it's ready to go. It's just another new animation to add to the layout. So to go with these trailers, Burkina has come out with a line of tractors anywhere from the year 1955, 1963, in the 70s. So we've done a number of the Peterbilt. We've done the Peterbilt 359 tractors, if any folks out there are familiar with them. We've done some of the Fords, the Chevrolets. It's just, you know, something that adds more animation, you know, to the layout. So you take these chassis with the container, and you put the tractor, and you mount it on your layout, and you've got something that you see on the interstate highways, and those are lit up day and night. So you could see, I don't know if you can see on that picture there, but you can see an LED on the end there. Then we put a few on the chassis, and of course you see what the rear has. We've also done the same thing in the Athearn 53-foot refrigerated trailer. We've lit those up. Plus, on the refrigeration unit, we've added a green light on the left side of the trailer where the refrigeration unit is. It's very cool, and you know, again, it's something new and different. You know, no one really, other than, I mean, no one commercially is doing this, but I'm sure there's a lot of modelers out there that do things, you know, just like this. So this is one of our new things. So what you're seeing here now is what we've had at the Amherst Model Railway Show. You could see a number of vehicles there. I'm going to just point some out real quick in the center there. You could see some of the police fire truck, the police blue and black trucks there, like the SWAT trucks. Up above, you could see some of the new, we've got some Ford pickups there. You've got some of the new Atlas F-350 pickups there in police. And there's fire in one of the other slides there. The Walters stake bed trucks, we put an arrow stick on the back, and that has 7 different lighting patterns on it. We're even able to light up the Cat 450E backhoe on the bottom of that display. We put some LEDs on there and a little beacon on the top, and it just complements a construction scene. I think the next slide will have a little bit more. Okay, so what you see there are the Walters mail trucks. We picked up some another police tactical trucks. We've also found some of the Rico Dodge Chargers, which haven't been around since 2019. We picked a few of those up, and we light them up for for customers. Let's see what else we have there. You can see the stake bed truck. I think there's one other slide there which we could take a look at that may have a few other things on there. Okay, can you go back to? Yeah, go back one more, if you don't mind. There. So on that left display, I don't know how many people can see it, but those are the Burkina tractors that we lit up, and they're very popular. It's they're anywhere from 7 to 9 LEDs on the front. The top has some marker lights on the top there. Usually they have either 5 or 6. I'm just remembering it off the top of my head. Plus we light up the rear head, rear tail lights, and of course the headlights are lit up on it as well. But it's all animation, and I'll just give you one little new item that we're coming out with, and we hope to have it in time for Train Fest. I don't know if it'll be ready by the National Train Show. We unveiled the prototype at the Amherst show. We're coming out with an HO scale end of train device.
Yeah, we could cheat and use that on other scales.
Well, this comes ready to go. We give you the truck and the end of train device, and what's nice about it is it's going to have a keep alive on it. So if you take the freight car off the railroad, it'll flash for another second or two.
So Neal and Tom, here's a little video of the fire engines. I think you might want to see. I think it lets you see the lighting effects better.
Terrific.
Well, thank you for grabbing that. Yep, that's just a couple of them. Those are the Walters Scene Master trucks. So the one on the left, on your left now, that's their hazmat, and that's got 34 LEDs in it, including the scene lights on the side. Those vehicles are actually the old boat from the old Bole molds, and we light them up all the time. We're probably doing next run on those for holiday.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's really amazing.
Yep, the guys, it's incredible what they do at the shop there. They work with microscopes on a lot of these things. We do our own programming, so all of the chips and the flashing light patterns that you see on the vehicles, we design. For instance, we have people obviously up in Massachusetts. They say, okay, we want all blue lights in the vehicle, and we want it to flash a certain way. We'll go out and look for the vehicle online, see if we can get some video, and then our tech team will replicate that that light pattern.
Amazing.
Yeah. This is Phil again. Just something you said, and found this real quick. This is a company called Model U. They're out of the UK. They do 3D printed figures.
Okay.
This is a block of 5 rail fan photographers they sell in different scales. I think so. They may be someone that would be interesting to talk to for that. Yeah, I mean, if the one thing that I just saw on that, those are not painted, and that would take a lot of time, to do. The figures like you saw on our site, they're from Walters and Prizer. They're ready to go. So all we have to do is just drill some holes and snake some wires, and then add the circuits below it, and they're ready to go. But no, that's something we can look at. I don't unless we can find someone that'll take the time to paint them.
We are a live show, so I would like to open it up to our Zoomers, people on the Zoom.
Hi, Neal. This is Greg. Thank you for coming on. It's very interesting. have you given any thought to coming down to any of the timonium shows in Maryland? Love to see you down here.
We would love to go down there. The thing with timonium, it's especially the February show. It's right after Amherst.
Yeah.
So the thing is, we don't have enough time, to gather enough vehicles. I mean, when we do the Springfield show, because it's the largest show in the United States, we go there with over 100 vehicles. So, and if we go through half of our supply at the show, if not more, what does it leave us? A couple of days. We would love to do it.
Right. I know they are close together. Their October show is usually a pretty well attended one as well.
Yeah. I'll have to take a look at it. We did it once, but we really didn't have a lot there, and we were sharing a table with someone. We were actually sharing it with NJ International, but now we stand on our own. So it's something we've talked about. We're adding more and more shows, to our agenda. Originally we were doing the Greenberg Edison show because it's in my backyard, and we were doing the Amherst show, and then the Hub show, which is a December show up in Marlborough, Mass. But now we've added the National Train Show. We did Train Fest last year. Now the Train Fest is back. That was a great show out of Milwaukee. So it's definitely.
If you make it down, I'll show you the good places to eat.
Okay, well, you don't have to twist my arm. So, but I'll definitely keep it in mind. Thank you, Greg. It's something.
Well, thank you for coming.
Something to look into.
Do we have any other questions for Neal? Well, that was just a great, well done, great presentation.
Thank you.
Great products. I am so glad we found you, and encourage you to come on the show again. I'm going to twist your arm on your layout at some point. I'm going to visit you and photograph it for you, and see what
you want to photograph it before or after the ballast?
After, of course.
Okay. Oh, you don't know what you're in for,
Well,
so
we're going to get you started anyway.
That'd be great.
Thank you for coming on, and this has been 3 months in the making, and I'm sure you'll find it valuable, and appreciate your time this evening. That was just.
I thank you very much. Thank you for having me and having East Coast Circuits on here, and it's a pleasure to meet all of you. Greg, I will definitely keep you in mind if we can fit it into the schedule. I don't even know what the dates are yet, for that show, but we'll look into it. It could be worth going to. So.
And this video will be broken out from our show and posted on YouTube, so you'll be able to go back and use it for your whatever purpose you like. And
great.
And thank you again.
And before you go, Tom, if you have something that you can send me, whatever, that says as seen on New Tracks Modeling, and I'll put it on the table so that people know about your program, I'd be more than happy to do that.
Terrific. Yeah, we'd like a little promotion.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Mm-hmm. Well, next up, we have our very own Martin Brechbiel, and he's going to do a scratch build for us on the offices of Deckard and Batty. But before he is on, we'd like to run the Observations newsletter video, which he happens to be the editor of. Take two.
Get more New Tracks modeling by reading the monthly Observations newsletter. Each edition of Observations includes exciting articles about modeling shown on the show, other modeling topics and prototypical railroading information. Other articles focus on outstanding model railroaders and new products from a range of suppliers. Don't miss the photos of the popular New Tracks My Build. You can download Observations for free from the New Tracks Modeling website. Subscribe so you don't miss an issue.
I want to point out that the last issue of Observations will be the May 2025 issue, and then we'll be switching to the New Tracks Modeler magazine, which premiere issue will be June 1st. And now the legendary scratch builder himself, Martin.
Oh, good grief. Good grief.
Legendary.
The horror, the horror. Okay. And there we go. And we're off and running. It's been one of those days. And boom. It's just been one of them days, you know? Or weeks, maybe months, I'm not sure. Well, the offices of Deckard and Batty. It's an obscure reference that some people may actually recognize those two names and their relationship to one another. We'll let you worry about that as we go forward nonetheless. And we're going to start out with a bunch of Grant Line doors and windows and some 6-inch wide clapboard, milled clapboard. You don't get that. You have to order that 6-inch wide clapboard. Mine came from Kapler a number of years ago, back when I was buying their seconds in bulk. Small truckloads of milled lumber and strip wood would arrive on my front porch on a regular basis. And I'm still wading through it, and I've gotten 10, 12 years worth of building out of that pile of stuff that I bought. So you can find the 6-inch wide stuff, or you can just glue up the 3.5-inch stuff that you get at the regular stuff. But the 6-inch wide stuff is kind of convenient sometimes when you're lazy and don't feel like gluing stuff together. Okay, so here's the front wall. This is a little complicated because it's not straight or flat or what have you. It's got a little jog in it. It's staggered back like. So there's an indentation in the front door. So the opening to the left is the front door. There's a window in the middle section, and there's a double window in the other section. And the double windows was when you just take a Grant Line window, slice and dice off the frame, glue it back together with some methyl ethyl ketone, MEK, and cut a big hole in the side. So, and there's a little bracing behind it because those angles, even when you bevel and sand and fit it together and get careful as you can, it's still kind of shaky. So a little bit of bracing behind it helps maintain those angles. So that's the lower half of the front wall. There is an upper half, and there it is. And there's the upper top, and it's just scribe siding and some strip wood. That's some 3x stock, top and bottom. That matches the 16th-inch scribe siding, which has been glued up, 2 pieces there, obviously. And you see some marks there because we're going to modify this a little bit, make it a little more interesting because as it stands, well, it's boring. And boring's kind of bad. So we're going to add some things. Okay, so we're going to double up the top and bottom and add some battens, which are where those lines were. There's a board underneath. There's another piece of square stock on top. It all sits recessed under this top piece. There's a extension here that runs across. It's strip wood. There's a piece of quarter round. That's 3/64 quarter round. Used to be you could just walk into any hobby shop and buy all kinds of strip wood and stuff. I wish I could walk into a hobby shop anywhere in this state. My nearest hobby shop is 2 states away, a 90-minute drive. So, and they don't have 3/64 quarter round. I wiped out the hobby shop in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, of all of its quarter round a number of years ago. I just went in one day and grabbed everything they had, ran to the cash register, threw money at them, and ran away as fast as they could. And I'm pretty sure they never restocked, but I guess you can find this in styrene. I don't know. I still have a stock of this stuff laying about in all different, I have 5 or 6 sizes. So this makes it a lot more interesting. unlike the back wall, which is very uninteresting. It's a pentagram of sorts. We're going to make that more interesting. It's just too dreary. And the side walls, which again are not particularly interesting at this point. That one is glued up from two different pieces. This one actually has this lower one actually has a crack in it. We're not going to worry about that too much. A little bit of glue and some paint. No crack. Okay, so we take the back, and one of the same windows that's in the front, a different door that was on the first slide, well, actually the third slide. And then up at the top, that's actually going to get an HO window for up in the attic. I use HO windows occasionally in my O-scale buildings, but usually they're in little discrete places where you want a small window. And as opposed to, it's not all easy to find a small O-scale window, but you can find a normal-sized HO window and use it. Nobody cares what scale it is if it looks okay in the right place. Okay, so we'll stack the top wall on top of the bottom wall. It's not just stacked, it's actually glued there. And you can see how that overhangs. There's some scribe sliding. Well, you can't see it. I don't have a slide that has it. Above that staggered inlet for the door, there's actually a ceiling. So I've actually fitted a ceiling in there. Maybe you will be able to see it from another slide around the back. And that quarter round's been added. And we have this glued up. And that's how it looks like from the side. It's not the best picture because everything's kind of warped from the angle and the back wall's not on. But we've added a window to the one side because otherwise, yes, it's boring without a window. So we'll put another casted window in there. We'll get this all straightened out eventually. And there's the same boring other side wall. So we got the three walls pretty much assembled, the front, back, the front and the two sides. And just so you can see, this is the kind of nonsense that goes on the inside to hold it all together. This may be up in the air at the moment, but once we get the back on, it'll pull it right back down. It'll all be flat again. There's all kinds of bracing in here. Here's the bit of scribe siding, the ceiling outside of the building. So if you were standing to go inside from the door and looked up, you'd see scribe siding above there. All kinds of joinery and extra bracing and everything just to reinforce it, because the more I messed with it, the more worried I got about breaking it. And never, not that it ever broke, but what did break actually is the wall that you're not seeing, the back wall. I broke that one, but it got glued back together. And so this is all fitted together. Lots of, for me, an unusual amount of reinforcement and frame and bracing. But this building is a little odd, to say the least. And next week, we'll come back. If we're coming back next week. Is it next week, next month? I don't know.
Next week would be fine.
I'm sorry?
Next week would be fine.
Oh, how delightful. Let me tell my social secretary where I'll be next week. The back wall, the roofing, paint and finishing, all the fun stuff. We'll wrap it all up maybe in one session next week. So a fun little building, a little bit different. And if there's any questions, now's a good time.
Is that a two-story building, or is that a false front on that, or what do we?
Yes, it's a false front top.
Okay, so you'll be detailing something on the back of it, I assume. Then, yeah.
Probably a little bit.
Yeah.
And there's probably be some more on the front.
Yeah.
It's still kind of boring. It's coming along though. And I see that Phil actually recognized the names, or he visited his best friend Google and found them out.
That's what I did.
Yeah, there you go.
No, I remember Dechter. I remember that name.
The final replicant at the very end was Roy Batty.
Right.
So
the guy eating the dog food, that's the one I like.
That probably was not Roy Batty.
Well, that's a very interesting building.
There you go. And I thought they'd make a good legal team, given their circumstances.
Yeah. Do you want to do a little plea from our Zoom audience and our
Articles. Send them to me. We need articles. Model railroading articles of any and every kind possible. Send them. And if you go to online to the last issue of the newsletter, the Observations newsletter, my email address is third page, I believe. So send me articles. And, they don't have to be the great American novel. God help me, no. I don't want to see that anyhow. A couple of pages, 2 pages, 1 page and some photos. It's not hard to do. You'll find it's very easy to do, in fact, and you may actually even like it. I mean, it's kind of a scary thought, but you might actually learn to like writing.
It's critical that we get articles from our YouTube and Zoom audience. Martin and I have discussed this. We simply don't want it to be the Martin and Tom newsletter or upcoming magazine. We need the support of everybody. It makes it more interesting. I know we're fascinating people ourselves, but we need the diversification. We need
Yes.
we need all the different inputs. It's really not that difficult to write, and we'll correct it grammatically. Don't worry about that. Just give it a crack. Yeah.
Yeah. The tip I give is, if you've got a series of photos of something you've built or something you've done, write a caption for each one of them. Now take the caption and make it twice as big. Okay, so now you're halfway to an article. Fill in another sentence connecting the pictures together. Add a sentence for introduction and a wrap-up sentence at the end. That's probably an article right there. It's just that easy.
And we're actually at about 8,600 potential subscribers. So we're pushing 9,000. So it's great coverage, So, well, thank you, Martin. And as usual, a fascinating presentation. Next up, we have our very own Phil Edholm, part 3 of 4 of the Agnew station. But before we have Phil on, we're going to run our My Build video and feature a plug from Chris' course.
Don't miss the monthly New Tracks Modeling My Build event. My Build is where the modelers of New Tracks show what they have been building. See amazing modeling with some My Builds featuring specific topics for modeling. If you would like to have your models included in the My Build, please email your modeling photos to chriscourse@railrunner130@hotmail.com. If you are a first-time My Build participant, please include a photo of yourself.
Chris?
Hey, thanks, Tom. All right, next week we have, I believe it's next week, we have a My Build, is that right?
That is correct.
23rd. All right, so please get your photos to me by the 20th. We have a theme for next week, which is automation, animation, whatever you can do to make it move. The earlier presentation, that kind of stuff is exactly what we're looking for. Hey, Phil, if you could throw up the slide there, please. And there we go. It's microscopic, but you can see it. April 23rd. Automation, animation, make it move, whatever you can do to make it fit that category. Let's see, May, I believe, let's see here. Looks like May 14th is a free-for-all. And then that will kick off the voting for next year's theme shows. So if you have ideas for theme shows, please get us those ideas for that theme, and I'll put it into a big Google Doc, and we'll have a survey, and the winner will have 6 theme shows for next year. So we will go over those in the June show. And then the June show, which is another theme, it is water. Whatever you can do to fit in the water theme, bridges, beaches, things along those lines, that would be greatly appreciated. And then again in July we'll have a free for all, and August has yet to be determined. So that's all the information I have for tonight. So I'll turn it back over to you, Tom.
And as I say weekly, New Tracks My Build program is one of our most popular segments, and it's an opportunity for not only our Zoom participants, but our YouTube participants to be in the show. And it can spin off to a full-blown segment of your own, or certainly an article in the New Tracks Modeler magazine. But first, let's see if we can get this going here for next week. Okay, so thank you, Chris. And next up is Phil on the Agnew station, part 3 of 4. Phil?
Thanks, Tom. I will go ahead and get going and go through this reasonably quickly. So I'll go ahead and do a little screen share here. So this is part 3 of this build of the Agnew station, which actually I made the Farrell station to fit a town on my layout, but it's modeled on the Agnew station, which was the railroad stop for the Great Asylum for the Insane there in Santa Clara. Today I'm going to talk a bit about the interior. So this is a little bit different than what I would call a traditional contest model, where you take the roof off and you kind of judge on how the building looks when you look in with the roof off. The reality is that on a layout, you generally don't take the roof off your buildings and leave it off. So what you're really concerned about is what people can see through the windows. Now, one of the things about this station is, and this is true of a lot of stations and engine houses, is they have relatively large windows, so you get a great view through them. However, the view is very two-dimensional. Because you're looking through a single space, you're not able to see items in 3 dimensions. So you don't get as good of a judge of the depth of items. So actually having something you look at that's 2-dimensional works really well. So what you're looking at through the windows here, the fixtures, the desks, etc., are 3-dimensional. They're 3D printed, but everything on the walls is actually just printed as a literal 2-dimensional print. So I do PowerPoint for this. You've seen this before in things I've done with PowerPoint. This is actually the PowerPoint deck that generated the images you saw in the building. Now, these slides on this are actually very large, but the images are produced in a 4x6. So basically, you produce a big PNG image that's high resolution, send that as a 4x6 to print as a 4x6 print to your local camera shop. My local camera shop charges me about 49 cents for these. So basically what you see across the top here are the 3 walls in the building that I printed, the complete walls. What you see on the right is basically, on the upper right there is a wall that's a plaster painted wall. The bottom left 2 there are basically all the signage for the building. And then the 2 on the bottom right are actually the floor. So this was basically, each one of these was then reduced into a PNG image that was printed. So what I thought I'd do is kind of show you how this works. So this is a specific wall. And what you see is, as we talked about before, if you look up at the top on this, you'll notice that it's 24 inches wide on the print. So or on the slide, excuse me. So the slide is 24 by 16, which when you output that will output at 300 DPI. That 24-inch wide print is going to give you very high resolution in the PNG image that you send to the printer. And typically they're printing these on photo printers that are 600 or 1200 DPI, much higher than your home printer. What you notice on there, the red lines are actually a background. That's the background of the slide master in PowerPoint. And those are actually set so they're inch apart. So if you notice across the top, there are 6 spaces there identified by the red lines, and up and down there are 4. So in the real world, when you make the print, the space there is 1 inch by 1 inch. So anything that's inside one of those squares is going to be 1 inch by 1 inch. Well, of course, one of the beauties of O scale is that 1 inch by 1 inch is 4 feet by 4 feet. So it's really easy to kind of ascertain, well, for example, if you look at that one of the paintings here, you can see that they're about 3 foot tall. They're about 3/4 of an inch tall, which means they're going to be about 3 foot tall, which is probably appropriate for use in a building. So what I want to do is show you that this is what that print looks like as a print. And what you see down below, the upper wall and the picture below is actually that print as a wall. And you notice I actually ended up making it a little too wide, because when I put those trim pieces in that run up and down along the wall right at the corners to cover that intersection, they actually covered a little bit of one of the pictures that I put in there, but I decided you really couldn't see it that well, so it really wasn't that appropriate or mattered that much. And again, the idea is no one ever is going to look at the building in this view. You don't ever do that in the real world, so why would you do it in a model? And as you'll see next week when I talk about the lighting is actually designed in this, so when you take the roof off, you're actually looking at the top of the lighting. You're not looking down into the building. You have to remove the lighting to be able to see into the building. But what you see is there are the 4 walls and that wall. So what I want to do is kind of show you how that wall was built. So basically, this is the wall, and I've taken the picture frame on the left, or excuse me, the window frame on the left, the door, and one of those pictures, and kind of disassembled to show you how the parts go together there. So basically, the window, the black is what's going to be cut out. So that's actually where the physical window is in the model, and you're going to look through that. So before this is put together, the black will be cut out. And then what I've done is surrounded that with this brown, with the brown material, wood material. And that's actually, and I'll show you in a minute, that's actually one of the backgrounds you get in PowerPoint. It's actually one of the textures you get. You can see us again, the pieces for the door. The door itself was something I found on the internet. And then I put a door frame around that. So this didn't have a door frame. It was a raw door that somebody was selling on some site. And then you'll notice the pictures, there's a single frame, and that all of them have the same frame. And then what I've done is I found pictures that I liked that were from the center of California. And I've actually then used cropping and scaling to fit those pictures inside that picture frame. So each one of these is done exactly the same way. And so if I jump into the next slide, this is actually using textures and fills. So if you look at one of those pieces of wood there, that piece of wood is actually filled by using the texture down here at the bottom, and then picking this dark wood texture. You notice there are kind of 3 wood textures down here. There's some sand textures, kind of some wall textures, and all these things are great to fill in objects. So that object, literally, you don't need to download anything. You just create it instantly by making a square or a rectangle, and then going and filling it as a fill color, clicking on texture, and going and importing a fill color. By the way, you'll notice that one of the other things you can do is you can actually use a picture. So if you have a picture of something you really like that's a wood grain or a background, you can actually add that to an object as well. So it's a really easy way to kind of make those objects of a certain color and then put them in. You'll notice the door handle, by the way, is right above there. That was just basically a block that I kind of made a brass color. Because again, I just wanted to have that illusion that there was something there. This is the wainscoting. And so the wainscoting, I found this on a site. I don't know if it was Home Depot or Lowe's or somebody else, and they were actually selling a panelized wainscoting. And so this wainscoting was actually on their site. And so what I did was I grabbed that piece. And so there's one of these. This is the same. And then I've replicated it and I've inverted it. So you basically replicate it. You cut it in different places so that when you squish these together, it doesn't have a linear appearance. And if you kind of look at it, you'll notice that this one here and this one here have been reversed. So, in PowerPoint, you can reverse an object. So this little coloration is moved from this side to this side. And if you look up here and you look really closely, now that you can see that coloration across the piece. But when you look at it, especially when you look at it through the windows of the building, it's virtually impossible to see. So again, what we're trying to create is that illusion of detail an illusion of completeness in the building without having to go actually find wainscoting, paint it, mount it, et cetera, et cetera. We can do it all. And once you do this wainscoting once, it's now easy to reproduce that on each wall in the same way, and it all looks the same. So the other thing that I want to talk through very quickly was the floor. So this is what the floor looks like. This is actually the image that was printed, and you'll notice that it's kind of nicely divided. It's got breaks in the wood at certain places, and where there is a break in the wood, there are nail holes. And so when you look at the floor, it looks like a well-made kind of rustic depot floor. The way this was done is actually by using, again, an object I found on the internet. And the floor is actually built out of a whole bunch of boards. So if you look at this, each one of these boards is actually a unique board. And the way those were created is by actually creating each individual board and then putting them together. And then once you've got some number of them put together, you'll notice down here at the bottom, there's a piece where they're all connected together into one chunk. Once you've done that, you can then take that piece, and this is actually the same block of boards, then reproduced 3 more times, and each one of these is inverted. So for example, this one has been inverted vertically, and then these copies, which are copies of this, have been changed horizontally, so rotated. So if you kind of see that by that way these boards stick out at the end, but what happens is you've actually taken the pattern and made it so it looks different between the different boards. So how do you create an individual board? So the way that's done is actually really pretty simple. What you see here on the left is actually, this is what I downloaded from the internet. And by the way, if you notice right in the middle here, it's hard to see. You may be able to see it if it's large enough on your computer. There's actually a watermark right here on the middle of this image. But what I've actually done is taken an individual board out of that image. And the way you do that is you use the crop tool. So you basically take this image, make a copy of it, and then you use the crop tool to crop down to an individual board. So each one of those boards is actually an image. And by the way, the file does get pretty big because until you actually copy it as a PNG, there are a lot of versions of the same image in there. So that's one board out of that image of boards. There's another board. And once you actually get the cropping started, you can zoom in on the crop and you can actually cut the crop off very effectively right at the lines of each board. So it's literally like thinking about almost like cutting the boards out of a scribe siding to get individual boards. Then those boards were reassembled into the overall set of things. You'll notice that I kept the lines where the breaks were. Those are all on a line. So when I added the boards back in, these are 2 separate boards added together. And those break lines are 4 feet apart, which kind of matches what you would see with joists under the floor. Then what I created was just a really simple box of 4 dark gray circles. They're just circles filled in with dark gray color. Those are then grouped together to group a group of 4. Then that's copied to create another group of 4. Those are lined up. And once you've lined these up on the board, you can now copy them as a group and move them over here to the next set of boards. So it turns out once you do one of those, it's really easy to replicate them across all of the boards. So what you end up with is you end up with this image right here, which is basically all the boards lined up. It's now 4 inches tall, so it fits in there. The 6 inches is hidden behind here because we're sticking the ends out past. The next step in this process is you just copy this. So you select all of these images here, and you copy them and you paste them onto a new slide as a PNG file, not as a PowerPoint object, but as a PNG picture object. So once you've done that, now you can crop that object down, and you notice that object has now been cropped down where, you know, it came when you first import it, it's going to look like that, but then you can crop it down to the 4x6 size. And then because I wasn't sure that I had got all of these lines perfectly lined up, so there wasn't going to be a slight hole between some of them, I put a brown box as the background. So when this prints, what you're actually going to see is this part of the slide, but what you're actually getting is you're printing this, but you're getting the floor printing there. Now, the next thing was the signage. And so I've talked about this in the past, but basically I tried doing the signage with a white surround and a black surround. And I decided I liked the black surround a little bit more. So printed out, these is, basically, again, just done in PowerPoint, some signs off of the internet, the Western Union sign. Those were printed out and they were rusted a little bit. The post office and Western Union signs. In the office, because if you look down on the bottom right, you'll see what the office looks like. I did the wainscoting in the office actually by putting on some of that scribe siding and painting it brown. What I wanted to do is I wanted to put the doors in the office. So I put a piece of brown wood on the wall that was a little bit bigger than these doors that I put in to print out. And then when I printed out the doors, I could trim those and put those on the wall. And again, when you look in through the side, they really do look like really great doors. So that's basically those pieces. I did a ticket window. I'm kind of proud of this as a step here. The ticket window actually was done as 2 3D prints, done in filament printing. So this is pretty easy, and anyone who has a filament printer can do it. Notice that the one on the left is actually designed to be in the public facing room, and it had a design for a place on it where you could put a tickets, say tickets, and then this is the side that goes into the office. So you can kind of see that on the right here. If I jump over here, if I jump back one, you'll notice that right here were those signs for the tickets. And I actually made them with a couple of different colored backgrounds to decide which one I liked best. And obviously the one I liked best was this one here. And that was trimmed and then glued into the space that was in the 3D print. So after all the walls were glued in, and I didn't do any pictures of the walls, just glued in separately, the building was installed or assembled. The walls were glued to the base using canopy glue. There were 3x8s that were glued down in the floor area. So that print of the floor is actually sitting on 3x8s. And the reason for that is I wanted to put 3x8s at the edge of the building to actually hold down the walls where the floors were. So these are a couple of just assembly pictures, starting on the upper left, squaring up the first wall, using some weights to hold it down while it's being glued down on the baseboard. On the middle, you see installing the 2 walls on either side of the office and making sure that they dimensionally match, and they were squared up, and then that they dimensionally match the end wall that goes there. You kind of see that being put together. On the bottom left, that's actually gluing on that end wall of the office with the big windows in it. Again, holding it down just with weights. And then on the bottom right is installing the other walls, which were done with clamping, a combination of some little inexpensive plastic clamps. And then where sometimes when I find that you want to pull something in tight, you can just use masking tape and just pull the masking tape really tight, and that will pull it over and make it tight. The interior pieces were all designed, again, in FreeCAD to be 3D printed. So, for example, on the left here, you see the dispatcher's desk. One of the things you'll notice if you look in the picture, you'll see right here, there's a corner block in the wall. So the desk was actually designed with a cutout so I could glue a corner block here in the wall to make sure the wall was well attached. Because obviously up in this area, there's not going to be a lot of attachment strength in the glue in that area because it's just basically 3/32 material glued to each other. You see on the right the bench that sits in the waiting room, and it was again 3D printed, painted with cinnamon, or excuse me, with the caramel paint, and then darkened with a range of dry brush paints. One of the other things that I like to do is do a lot of paper. If you're going to do an office, offices had, in the old days, today they have computers, and in the old days they had innumerable pieces of paper. If you ever look at railroads in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s ran on paper. And so this is the idea of creating some paper. So the picture on the left here is actually the picture of the dispatcher's desk. And what you see on that dispatcher's desk are actually track warrants. And if you get up really close, have really good eyes, you can actually kind of see this in the model. So that's actually the image that's reproduced very small there. You actually see, again, this is a 4x6 print. This area over here, each one of those is a track warrant. So each one of those becomes one of these. What's really neat about this is that after you printed it, it's easy to cut it up. And I'm kind of showing two things here. On the left, these were the Pajaro signs. Those were basically glued without being cut out to a piece of .010 plastic. And then that was cut out with an X-Acto knife. And then I used the black ink to run around the outside with a Sharpie so that the plastic and the black frame for the thing were actually looked together like they were a single piece. And it comes out very well. So you glue it first. This is the glue, by the way, that I used for both gluing the walls, the images of the walls, the print images of the walls onto the walls, and for this. It's actually called an industrial strength glue stick, and it seems to work really well. What you see on the right here is the nice thing about doing these images this way is if you saw the PowerPoint thing I did a while back, I talked about the idea of creating indexing marks that you can use to cut. So what you do is when you get ready to cut this stuff out, you take your straight edge, line it up on two of these marks, and then cut between them. And what you see down here is this is actually letters that are going to go in that letter box in the back. And what I've done is horizontal cuts have been done all the way across on all these rows. And then I've started to cut some of them out vertically. And so the beauty is you can literally cut out 100 pieces of mail literally in a couple of minutes. And then I just use a little touch of glue and glue them on the shelves. So, when you look at this, at the interior piece here, this back piece, this was again done as a 3D printed object with a filament printer. It was painted the same way with carbon and then darkened with black dry brushing. I have a little brass paint that's, I think, True Color. And I use the True Color brass paint to paint the handles here on the drawers and doors. And then each one of these is just one of those letters. There were some smaller letters, some larger letters, and they just basically, once you've cut them out, you just take them, just a touch of glue and put them in on a shelf. So anyway, I think that's as far as we're going to get tonight. Next time we'll close up with a little bit of how the lighting was done interior. What you see there in the image on the bottom right is the lighting actually has light fixtures, and those were all done very simply in a 3D print using 3mm LEDs. We'll talk a little bit about the roof. That's very much what I'll call, for lack of a better word, standard construction. And then we'll close with the trim and the outside deck. So that's basically what I have for this week, Tom. It's back to you.
I just have to say that is a absolutely fantastic model. The modeling there is just, what can I say? That's gorgeous.
Well, thanks.
And it's good that you're using PowerPoint. I use PowerPoint the same way. I think PowerPoint's underutilized. You don't really need Adobe Illustrator or some of these more expensive programs. I have done very similar work with reproducing full-scale photographs and then cropping them down and pasting them on top of each other and then making a single PNG file. I mean, this is a great technique. Anybody that uses PowerPoint, you have a very powerful tool there for your modeling. And it's good to see that somebody else is fooling around with this too.
Yeah,
that's just great.
For those of you that have been around for a while on New Tracks, I did a series probably 2 years ago on using PowerPoint, and I've turned that into a clinic that I've done at a number of conventions, and it seems like there's just no limit to people wanting to figure out how to use it. And I always start those clinics by asking a simple question, which is, how many of you have used PowerPoint or are familiar with it? And almost every hand in the audience goes up. And then ask how many of you are familiar with Inkscape or one of the other programs, and almost nobody has. So one of the things I love about PowerPoint from a modeling perspective is most of us as modelers are very familiar with it already. So it's not like you're using a program that you don't know most of already how to use. You know the structure of it pretty well, makes it pretty easy to use.
Well, it makes it tempting to do interiors when you, I mean, it's nice to have the 3D printer, but a lot of that work that you did on those walls, you could get away with, simply the 3D prints across all four
Right.
walls and be sufficient detail just looking through a window, so
Yep.
underutilized tool, I think, PowerPoint in our modeling. So great presentation, Phil. Good job.
Cool. Thanks.
Next up is myself, Frenchman River Model Works. We have a final component that we're going to feature of this recent series that I've been doing. First, everybody see that? The last week, I did a comprehensive build. I combined two programs into one on this Frenchman River Model Works engine house, single stall engine house for O scale. It's targeted to ON3 and ON30. There's a 20% discount right now on this Frenchman River Model Works Thomas York Original. If you use the code NEWTRAX, NEWTRX, you'll get the discount. That's a photograph of my completed engine house. It is a beautiful kit. The art in putting these kits together, these resin kits, is in the painting. And if you watch that video, even an amateur, or not an amateur, but even a beginner could replicate these results. It's just a question of technique. And you wind up with a Thomas York original museum quality kit. So I encourage you to support Frenchman River Model Works. They have multiple scales that they have some of these kits. All the Thomas York stuff's O scale, but they have all kinds of kits on their site. And like I say, support your local, support our sponsors. Okay, so next I'm going to show you this watch me build on a fuel oil tank. Hold on just one moment. Let me get the slides going here. Just a moment here. Hold on. Not on my normal computer. I'm at in a hotel in Florida, so bear with me till I get my little notebook under control here. Here we go. Okay, so there we go. All right, we should be in business now. So this is the companion fuel oil tank. It's also a Thomas York. This will be in my scene, the Eberwein coal tipple facility that features, and I'll show you all these at some point, but it features the engine house that you just saw, these Lionel toy switchman's shanty or tower that I built and turned into a scale model, the Bar Mills water tank that I featured, and this is the final component. Of course, my thing is okay. So I just went over this, but that's that finished Thomas York single stall engine house that's currently on sale. I've built multiple Frenchman River models over the past 2 years. This Lobster Shack, this Thomas York Becky Sue's House of Beauty that I called the Jack the Clipper, the 50th anniversary Thomas York M. Spillane building. Tom himself said this is the most complex kit he's ever put together. It's absolutely stunning, and I've never seen any better brickwork than on these two models, all handcrafted by Thomas York. This lobster boat, which is Frenchman River Model Works resin kit. These are all resin. Um, the engine house is still on sale. That's its list price. That's the Nutrax discount. That's the discount price. If you need one of these, this is a good opportunity to get one at a discount. And if you've never built a resin kit, that's why we do the step-by-step Nutrax videos. And you get a lot of value with that engine house. There's a lot of components there, including an interior detail. So, okay, so tonight, and there's the finished model. Tonight, I'm going to show you how I put together this fuel oil tank. But it's not so much putting this together, it's how I painted it, how I detailed it like this. We talked about using these pan pastels. This is finished entirely with pan pastels. And I'm going to show you a nice technique to get this look that's basically foolproof. So this is the resin kit as delivered. These are the components. And again, it's a simple kit. You basically, with a fingernail file or sandpaper, what little flash there is, you take off these components. You just glue this lid on here, glue these components onto the tank, and this is your base. I mean, it's a simple kit. But again, these resin kits aren't necessarily about how complex they are to put together, but how to finish them. So the first thing I did is primered this with my standby, the Tamiya light primer. It's a non-filling primer. You've heard me talk about this in the past. You really need to have a nice finish on here before you put your pan pastels on here. Then I went ahead and I super glued these two components on. They basically are two pieces. There's the base piece and then this plate. Same with this. There's a base piece and a plate. Just some basic little filing with a fingernail file is what I use. This exhaust pipe is nothing more than a piece of copper 18 gauge wire they give you. I had to drill that hole. I started with a number 10 blade and started a little hole, and then I took a little drill bit and more or less matched the diameter, and then I super glued that in place. So again, this is not a very complicated kit to put together. There's your side look. I left this on because I thought it would look like it was falling apart, little rust there, as you'll see. Now here are the pan pastels that are available for rust, or at least the ones I use. So this is the colors that I use. I pretty much used burnt sienna, this particular one, and this one, these two, burnt sienna shade, and I used a little burnt sienna extra dark. Well, actually, I used this one. So I used these three. And this is how they come delivered. Now the technique is to use 70% isopropyl alcohol. And all I did was dip my brush in the alcohol, and right in that, I didn't move the pan pastel anywhere. I just took my brush, put it in the actual pan pastel, and I had at it. So I took a stiff brush, and you can see it here. I just sort of, dipped my brush in the alcohol, dipped it in the pan pastel, and stippled it in place. Stipple, stipple, stipple. I just kept stippling it on place. And I'm going to show you the technique here. So that's how it looks stippled, and that's still wet. Okay, so I just stippled it all on there. And then when there's another photo of it stippled. There it is dried, but it's stippled like that. Now here's the trick. So even though it's stippled on, I went back with my finger and I smeared it around. because you don't really want necessarily a heavy stippling effect as your base color. So I wanted a relatively uniform rust color. There's some highlights of the gray in there. I didn't cover it totally. And then I sprayed it with dull coat, because if ever there was an opportunity for one color to bleed to another, it would be using pan pastels with alcohol. And you won't achieve the look if you try to add layers of color without sealing the base coat. So once I achieved this, I left a little stippling here and there, but I smeared the pan pastels around. Now you might say, well, why do you need the alcohol at all? Why don't you just brush the pan pastels on your model, be done with it? Well, that doesn't exactly work. Not like this anyway. I tried that, why go to that trouble? This gives you a totally different effect by mixing it with alcohol, using it as a paint. And then once it dries, you rub it around a little bit. You can't achieve that simply by putting the pan pastels on these large areas. And critical to this is to put the dull coat on. And voila. Now you stipple again over your base coat, and you're not picking up that base coat. Now you have a depth to it. You have a layer. So I paid particular attention to the riveting. I put with the brush, I put that on. I dimpled this a little bit, and I played around with it. It's really an easy technique, and I never really considered using pan pastels as a paint till I think we talked about it last week. This fellow Randy, who sells these things as a dealer at a lot of the shows, he's always talking about using them as paint, and always doing demonstrations. And boy, it really works, and it works really well. It's a absolutely nice finish. Then I hit it with dull coat, and then I went back one more time with a little bit more color. And I mean, doesn't that look like it's rusted? Yeah. It's really a nice technique, and it's a really easy technique. This is the base, it's supposed to be concrete. I just took the base and sprayed it with the Tamiya primer, the gray primer, and then I put Hunter Line driftwood stain on it, and then I took pan pastels, a charcoal color, and put it around the perimeter. You're not going to see the center here, so I just did this perimeter. And I do not have well, this is from their website. I do not have a finished picture of mine. I neglected to take that photograph. This little kit is $34.95 list minus a 20% New Tracks discount, or $27. A lot of detail on here. This would be tough to scratch build. My thing on scratch building is, if I can't scratch build it, I'll go to the kits. And believe me, these Tom York resin kits would be very difficult to replicate in a scratch build. Not impossible, but difficult. You get a real jump start if you buy the kit, and they're discounted right now. And hopefully you learned a technique this evening on working with pan pastels as a paint. It's a really nice technique. So, any questions on that? No.
I will say that is a great looking model.
Thank you. And yeah, the technique is easy. Yeah.
Hey, Tom, will you further dirty that up? Like maybe with some dry
oil. Yeah.
Something?
What I'm actually going to do is add a side building to it. And then I'm going to make it a oil filling station. And I'm going to have, oil running
Drip
off
it.
some of those fittings and pipes and things. So there's going to be a part 2 of this where I take this kit as is, and then I add a little side building, a little pumping building / office, and then have oil and crap all over it. So that'll be part 2. Yeah. Okay.
Tom, I don't have a question, but I do have some information for you.
Okay.
Last week in the chat, you probably didn't see it, but I mentioned that Chris Blackmar gave me information on pan pastels. They have come out with 53 new colors.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
don't know what colors they are, but you may have to Google that and see if you can check that out, because I thought maybe if someone's building this kit, or if you want some additional colors for your own modeling, that you may need to know that.
That's very good information. I'll try to, maybe I'll feature that when I do part 2 of this. Probably won't be for a couple of weeks. I'll try to feature, see if I can hunt down those new colors and just give a plug for pan pastels. It's a new, relatively.
I didn't buy any of them, but I know some other people did, and some of the colors that they tried to get were sold out already. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, they're just using them as a paint is a novel, relatively new technique, and I just wanted to show the Nutrax modeling people just how easy and how successful it can be. You know, it's an easy technique to master.
That's quite a lot of colors, though, to add 53.
Yeah, maybe there's some railroad.
Tom?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Go
I
ahead.
didn't mean to cut in on anybody. Great job. Really fantastic. I'm sitting blown away. Really
Oh.
was good. Did I get that correct? Is you do 2 or 3 colors at a time and seal them?
No,
Just one color,
one color at a time.
one color at a time. The difference between chalks and the pan pastels.
Chalks, if you spray them with dull coat, typically disappear. But pan pastels are an oil base, so when you
They
spray them
stay
with
there.
lacquer, they stay there.
I'll have to invest in them. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I was
they're.
just wondering about that.
Yeah, I mean, you can use.
Tom, it's also worth mentioning that Pan Pastels sells a couple of sets aimed specifically at modelers. There's, as you showed, the rust set, and there's also a weathering set.
Yeah. What am I going to do with all my chalks?
Well, I still have a chalk collection too, but
Yeah.
believe me, these are like way better than. They're more
That
permanent.
basic set you showed seemed to be the best way to go for starters. Yeah.
The key is.
I've done for years. I've done the technique you did with using chalks, and it works the same way.
Okay.
The pan pastel is a little bit more robust because I have quite a chalk collection as well, and
Right.
but they do tend to dissolve, and yeah, you can use a fixative with the chalk, which usually works better than a dull coat. A dull coat does dilute, just makes them somewhat disappear. I have personal experience with that. The pan pastels are more. I don't have any stock in pan pastels, but I'm just telling you,
No, what I was referring to, Tom, was the fact that you use the alcohol with the pan pastels. I used to do that with chalks.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
that technique works the same way.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
The only difference is if you go to seal it, you might run into trouble with the dull coat on the chalk, has been my experience. But whatever. That's anyway. Any other questions? All right. So that we had a couple cancellations this evening in presenters, so we're going to end a little early this evening. But we're going to have the show closing, our traditional show closing with our Father Ron, and then we're going to have a caboose, which is going to feature some animation, little deviation from our original program listing. But Father Ron?
Master maker of the universe. Our scale models imitate your creative spirit, and we learn the genius of your handiwork. Teach us to appreciate all you have made. Amen.
Thank you, Father Ron, Master Modeler. Every week I give you a plug. Next up, and thank you again, Father Ron. Next up is our caboose, and Phil.
It even includes an accessory port, so you can easily hook up lighting, smoke effects. It'll run off the same battery, so it really makes it easier for you to add LEDs and things to your gear.
What's blowing my mind here is the weight.
Yeah.
The weight.
So obviously, I mean, this is what makes it go, right? That's important to have. But you're right, the technology that makes that move is a big part of it. And so the software is really required in a sense.
Oh, yeah.
But once I set that path, that's all I have to worry about. Because the path is what moves that, and that is what makes the waves in the front and the wakes behind come up.
That is astounding. Absolutely astounding.
Isn't that fascinating? That's a flat panel TV there, and the software is basically rides on top of a video or a photograph of the water. I think it's a video actually. So the software integrates the video with that path, and then you get the simulation of a wake with the boat. It's it would be the centerpiece of any layout, but certainly something I'd never seen before. And what do you think, Phil?
It's pretty cool. It was, my thought on it when I saw it was pretty amazed that what you do in the software is you can create the patterns of waves and, of course, the waves line the boats, and it's primarily HO scale. But the reality is, if you've got a harbor scene, it's a really interesting way to make your harbor scene come alive.
I have a question. How does the pattern on the LED screen actually move the physical model?
So what they're doing is you put a pattern in, and then when he lifted the boat up, you saw that black frame. What that does is that follows the pattern you created. So if you put it in the programming mode, you see the pattern. Then once you put it into the operational mode, that little black thing follows the pattern because it knows, it knows geometrically where that is. And then what happens is the boat is battery powered, and it has some sensors that can sense that thing that's moving on the screen, and it stays right above it on the screen.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a light sensor underneath that piece.
Yep.
And that follows whatever path you design. And it's not just HO. He also shopped me on N scale.
And N, HO and N. I think N may be new from, but and then the other thing you can do in the software is you can go where you've got rocks, and you can kind of define that there'll be water, and the water moves.
Splashing on the rocks.
Splashing on the rocks. But yeah, it's you're limited obviously because it's going to be a TV, but the reality is, used TVs are pretty much everywhere. And buying even a 60-inch TV, you got to think about a 60-inch TV, how big of a harbor scene that is. That's over 4 feet in one dimension and almost 2 feet in the other dimension. So if you got a 4x2 area you wanted to put a harbor in, you can now instead of putting water in and all that, you put a 60-inch TV there and then run this application. And now you've got, not only do you have water that looks more realistic because it's moving and you've got waves, but you could have a boat moving around as well.
So the boat has a sensor in it that follows the moving item on the pattern, but it's just...
Not the boat, the device itself. So you can put that device in any boat, any boat you create. If the video went a little bit longer, he showed you can put a rock on there. You can do anything you want,
Right,
as long as it's attached to that sensor.
But there's not
There's a-
is there an actual propulsion device being used, or
yeah,
it's
there's
not
a
like it's magnetically
No,
following?
there's motorized wheels on that.
Oh,
That's
okay.
and it's rechargeable.
right.
Got
There's
it.
a little module that's got the wheels on it, the optical sensor, and batteries.
Okay.
And then the boat sits over that. So if you have one of those, you could 3D print yourself a boat or modify another boat to fit on. Like I think some of the Frenchman River, I actually was looking at this. It's too late for the things I've done because it'd be too difficult to tear it apart. But I actually thought about some of the resin printed Frenchman River boats. They're fishing boats that you could actually do this with them and have them move. And it's just
There you go,
really,
Tom. You got to put a TV under your river now.
there you go.
Well,
And you don't have to have them move around. They also have a device that'll have it just rock back and forth as if it's tied to the dock,
now
which
that
I
would
think is
be very
really cool. And then the other issue I had with them is like, well, what if I don't want Caribbean blue looking water? And he showed me numerous other different types of water. Like there's definitely a dark, murky,
Mississippi
water
mud.
type. Oh yeah, yeah. There's not just that pretty blue Caribbean that looks extremely fake, lit up with an LED screen.
Yeah,
I need one with oil drums floating around in it.
Yeah, I don't know. So if you happen to be at a show and they're at a show, it's definitely worth checking out. And if you're building a layout with a harbor, it's definitely worth checking out for that. And if you do that, you'll get a chance to show it in about 2.5 months at our My Build.
And there's also within their application software, there's also wildlife. You can see a giant whale underneath the boat swimming, or dolphins, sharks, things like that. It's really, really cool.
I wonder if they could do the Jaws scene. That would be
Yeah,
kind
you just have a big shark underneath, and then you have half a boat.
yeah, the Jaws
It's nothing but tweaking the software, I guess.
And of course, the good news is with software, you can actually have a Loch Ness monster now on your layout.
Yeah, or like Jeff said, a creature from the Black Lagoon.
That's right.
You could buy an inexpensive.
You could have Martin doing a backstroke.
You could buy an inexpensive, little TV, like a 12-inch by 14 little flat screen for nothing. And, you don't have to go large and go big. You can have a little scene. I think I'm going to look into that for the other half of my layout next year. Doc, you have the contact information for these guys?
I do.
You could post that in the chat or text me. That would be great.
I'll see if I can do it really quickly. I'll do it in the chat. If not, I'll email it to you.
And then we'll post it next week.
Yeah, I got you. I think they might be. I want to say it's a German family. I can't.
Yep.
You would know, but I can't be certain. But I want to say that the father that does most of the software engineering, I believe they're German, but I can't say that positively, but I believe. But I'll get you the information.
Looks right up the Germans' alley. Well, that concludes the show for this evening, and thank you all for viewing the show, and thank you for the participants. I thoroughly enjoyed Phil's presentation and Martin's, and of course our new presenter Neal was just great. So next week we have the My Build, and we'll see you next week.